Today I'm going to speak about a new set of apps for SharePoint Online that deal with displaying, aggregating data and displaying it. Okay, so just a 1 minute introduction about Quizcom. We've been developing and selling add-ons since for 12 years now. We're located in Richmond Hill, which is in the Greater Toronto area in Canada. And what we do is add-ons. And in the recent years, we've been investing a lot in apps because this is the new raising infrastructure from Microsoft, and we've been seeing many customers joining to Office 365. What you see now is a partial list of our apps for SharePoint Online, and today I'm going to concentrate on the List Aggregator, which is one of our recent apps. And the aggregator is not a new add-on. We had the List Aggregator add-on for SharePoint on premises since 2007. The Quizcom aggregator is just a set of is a part of a broader set of data display tools, which includes the Quizcom Remote List Viewer, which I will explain a bit about it later, and some upcoming tools such as Calendar Plus, the chart, and Image Gallery. And they're all part, as I said, of the data view tools, which I will explain later, and you'll see why all of this is connected. Now, as I said, List Aggregator is not a new product for us. We had the List Aggregator web part for SharePoint on premises since 2007. So this List Aggregator, the basic functionality is the ability to run cross-site collection, and even cross-web applications, so farm-wide queries, and retrieve information from your from many lists and many sites into one consolidated view. So additional key feature is the ability to run dynamic aggregation rules. And when I say dynamic, it's opposite to the ability to just select specific lists or specific sites and lists and to aggregate data from them. This is static aggregation. I'm talking about dynamic aggregation. For example, imagine you have project sites which are created on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis, and you want to aggregate all tasks, all milestones, or all deadlines from all the project sites. Now, if you did static aggregation, it means that every time a new project site is added, you need to change the configuration of your aggregator and to select more lists from the new project sites. When you run dynamic aggregation rules, it means you can run a rule such as get me all the milestones from all the project sites that are below some address or that start with some name. So this gives you the ability to make sure your aggregation results are always up to date without having you update the configuration every week. The List Aggregator web part has common controls such as filtering abilities and grouping and sorting and paging and so on, and the ability to export to Excel or PDF, maybe for additional processing in Excel, for example. And last is the ability to change the UI by providing customizable theme. Now, the downside of the existing Full Trust on-premises add-on are that it was always just a grid layout. Like you couldn't display the aggregated items in any other way. And also you couldn't add additional actions. For example, here you can see that every row has this icon that when you click it, you can view the item or edit the item. It's a part of the configuration, but that's the two actions that you can do with aggregated data, to view it or to edit it directly from here. And we wanted in the new List Aggregator app for SharePoint Online to deal with these two missing features or missing capabilities, and to provide something better, more flexible for customers. Okay, so let's talk about the new list aggregator. So the new list aggregator is really new because it's one of our first apps which is implemented based on the new SharePoint framework, which is the SPFx, working on the new modern pages. So the UI is fully responsive and makes use of the SharePoint framework. And it has some key features. For example, the ability to run cross-site queries by connecting to multiple sources. So you can run multiple queries and gather the results and display them. The UI is a lot more flexible. It's actually, and I'll show you a live demo, it's actually Lego style. So you can assemble the parts of this UI, and I'll show you everything. So it's the menu part and the paging part and filtering and grouping. Everything is Lego style. You decide how you want to display this. And in addition, if you see the action here on the right side, sorry, the actions on the top and the bottom side, these are fully configurable. You can add actions. By default, it comes with the regular delete selected items, but you can add more global actions on the top and the bottom. And also it comes with some pre-configured item level actions, but these you can also add, and you can even add some coding to do whatever you want with these actions. So it's totally flexible for really advanced scenarios. Okay, let's have a look at how it works. So I prepared two examples, and I'll just show you how it's configured and what you can do with it. So in this scenario, I have a site with two subsites. One is called sub1 and the other is called sub2, and each subsite has task list. And here in the PM workspace, you see that I have here, this is the list aggregate web part, and currently it shows you some global menu that has only the deleted selected items. It is grouped by the task status, and it aggregates tasks both from sub1 site and from sub2 sites. It has some out-of-the-box actions. For example, if I want to email this task, for example, so I'm just clicking this this icon, and it opens my email with the details, and this is of course fully configurable. I'll show you a bit later how you can change the message and which columns go into this email, and you can edit the item, you can view the properties and so on. So this just comes as out of the box template. Here, for example, I click the edit item, so it opens the edit item. Let's see how it's configured. Also, you might notice that when I select multiple items, the title here changes, and also in a group level, the title changes and reflects the amount of selected items. All of this is part of the template. Let's see how we configure this. So I'm clicking here the edit page. This is, as you see, the new modern page. Okay, and let's click edit here to edit the web part. So first thing you need to configure with the list aggregator web part is the query that will be used to retrieve items. And the way we do it, we do not expect you to write some kind of query definition. We use the out-of-the-box SharePoint mechanism. SharePoint has list and views, and a view in a list is actually a query definition. When you create a list view, you configure the displayed column and the sorting, and the filtering and the grouping. Actually, a view configures everything about the display of multiple items. So instead of asking you to write your query here, we simply ask you to take any list view that already fulfills your required query and just let us know which view you want us to use as the query definition. So here you can see that I'm going to the current site and to the task list, and the list view is all tasks. So this view is used as my query definition. I don't care what we have, what content we have in this specific list. I'm just using this selected view as my query. There are some additional definitions about the maximum number of items that I wish to retrieve, so I can limit it. But let's go on to the next definition. After I configured my query, now I need to add data sources. Data sources are the entities which I will query. Each data source actually defines a scope of sites or lists. As you see, I already have one data source. Let's have a look at its configuration. So when I click it, I'm getting this pop-up, and you can see first thing it just has a friendly name that should indicate what data it encapsulates, and then you have the aggregation scope. So we can aggregate an entire site collection or a specific site, or maybe a specific site and subsite. This is the current selected one, or specific lists. Now I chose the specific site and subsites because I want to aggregate all the tasks from all the subsites. Currently, if you remember, I have sub 1 and sub 2, but if tomorrow someone adds another subsite called sub 3, this will work because this scope contains all the subsites below the current site. So I don't care which sites I have there. Then I can limit my further on limit my aggregation. So maybe I have some sites that I don't want to aggregate, or a list that I don't want to aggregate. I can limit my aggregation by list title pattern. So I can say look only for a list that are named their names start with task or project something. So you can include also asterisk, so you can define the beginning of the name or only the end part of the name. So you can limit by name of list. Same goes by name of site. So this way you can limit the aggregation so it won't query all the sites below, but only just part of them. Additional ways to limit your aggregation is by list types, and this is what I did now. I'm not aggregating all the lists in all the subsites. Actually, I'm aggregating only the task list, and I can limit it by additional. This is a multi-select list, so I can select additional, which means you can do some multi-type aggregation. So I can, for example, aggregate both tasks and event lists because both of them are needed, not just one type. And finally, you can also further limit your aggregation by specific content types. All of this enables you to really fine-tune your aggregation to retrieve exactly what you want. And this way you can create many data sources. So this is just one data source. You can add additional data sources, each one going to a different site collection, and the aggregation will run on all of these data sources and gather the results. And this is what you see now. Now, what about the layout? When you want to change the layout, you open the designer. So let's open the designer. Okay, so this is the template designer. You see it on the right side. I can expand it, but actually I like it when I can take it to the left and so on. But let's take it to the right side. So now it appears on the right side. Now let's have a look, and you'll understand what I said, that this is really Lego style. Everything is configurable here. Let's start with the most basic stuff. So at first I can change some of the headers. So I can put like static headers. For example, let's put some static header, and it updates instantly. So whatever you do here, you see the result immediately in your web part. So this is the main title. As you can see, I have updated only the small title, which is this part, the tasks. Now, oh, sorry, I closed it. Now, you might notice that I don't have a static text here. I actually have a token. And this is the nice part. It's not just about static titles. The title can include dynamic content. And you see that below each field here, you also have edit formula. For example, here it shows the title, the name of the list that I'm showing. And if you open the edit formula dialog, you can see that you have all kind of component snippets. These snippets can be used to replace this. And if you're an advanced user and you want to do something more advanced, actually you can access the entire SharePoint API by using Knockout. Knockout is a kind of scripting language similar to JavaScript. Actually, it's JavaScript, and you can put here whatever you want. But I am, as a non-technical user, am simply using the component snippets. If I need something beyond the template and beyond these component templates, component snippets, I can use a more technical user to help me. And actually, he doesn't need to do much, but just to select whatever he wants and code it. It's so flexible. Next thing you see here, the no selected items. Let's close the template for a second. The no selected items, it's a dynamic thing, because when I select something here, you see that it gets updated to 4 selected items, 3 selected items, according to the number of items that I selected. Let's see how it was done. So going back here, you see that it's kind of formula. Again, we use a component snippets which says selected item count, and it pushed all this script inside. Again, if you want to fine-tune it and change it, or just put static text instead, you can do it. But I'm showing you what you can do a lot more by actually, there are no limits here because you can use code to do whatever you want. Okay, let's go next. Now, as you can see below these titles, I have a menu bar. This menu bar actually includes 2 actions. Let's see it. I'm closing this again so you will notice it. So I have this select all items button. Okay. And I have delete selected, which only when I select something here, it will be highlighted. Okay, so let's see how it was, why it appears here. So again, opening the designer, you see that the main content includes a menu bar. This is a control. You see we have many controls, a grouping control, tabs control, paging, table, list. I'll show everything. But the first control that I'm showing is a menu bar. This is why you see this menu bar here at the top. And let's see what I can configure with this menu bar. So you see it has 2 actions. One is select no label. This is the name we gave it. And this is the first one. And the second one is called delete selected. And this is the second one. And you can add more actions that are more relevant to your scenario, to your business requirements. And let's look at the delete selected, for example. So again, the script editor opens and it has this ready to use code that was planted here because it comes like this out of the box. But you can do totally another thing. You can add your own actions. Again, you use Knockout framework and you can do whatever you want here. The entire SharePoint API is exposed, so you can access the item and the list and do whatever you want, not just delete items, but you can add items, you can update items, you can do whatever you want. Now, you might also notice that we have also, if I scroll down, let's close it for a second. If I scroll all the way down, there's another menu, but it appears at the bottom of the web part. It's the new item menu. So you can directly from here add a new item. Let's see why it appears there. So again, I'm going back to the designer. You see that the menu bar has top actions, two top actions. These are the two top ones. And it has one bottom action, which is the new item menu. And you can add also more. Next, the menu bar, below the menu bar you have grouping. You see that you have it's grouped by the status of the tasks. And you see below the menu bar you have the groups control. And this groups control, let's see how it's configured. It groups by task status, and I can also give it a title. And it has some actions also. So I can, by the way, it doesn't have any, these actions are not fulfilled, but you can add actions also to this level, to a group level. Currently you have only this action, which is the select all. So this is the only action we have here. You can have up to 4 actions in each group. After the group, you have the list itself. So you see that the group contains a table control. This is the table control. Let's, for example, change the table control. You know what? Let's change the group control. I rather have tabs. So let's put tabs here. Okay, so you see now that I don't have grouping. Instead, I have here 3 tabs. Again, according to the task status, I can change it. Okay, let's say I want to have, you know what, instead of before the tabs, maybe I would like to have paging, because when we have many items we need paging. So I'm replacing the tabs with paging control. Okay, so now you see that I have paging at the bottom. There's no tabs, there's no grouping. I only have this paging. And of course I can configure the paging. Currently you see 10 items in a page. I can also show paging above the web part. So if I check this, you'll see that now we have also paging on top and maybe instead of the bottom. So this way, and you know what, let's change this table to a different form of display, to a list. List displays it more as more like in a smartphone display, where you see a title and below some additional line. This is configurable. I can say what I want to display in the first row and what I want to display in the second row. So everything is totally configurable and also customizable by code, which you can do a lot more if you want. Let me show you another example, this time about the item level actions. So I'm going to another example here, which is called event budget. Let me open it in the entire screen. Okay, so you see here a web part, and it's actually the same. This one connects to one list, but you might notice that I have a bit different actions because I changed the third action and I called it, you see the tooltip, show location on map. This aggregator aggregates events, and every event has a place where the event takes place, the city where it takes place. So when I click this button here, I configured it to open a pop-up that goes to Google Maps and shows me the location on the map. No, I have some connectivity issue here, just a second. Let's try again here. I'll refresh the page. Okay. Yeah, everything works a bit slowly. Okay, let's click it and see if it's okay. So do you see the map? Okay, so let's do it again. So I'm clicking here on this special button that I added, and this one goes to Google Maps. It passes the current item's location, and I'll show it to you, and shows it on the map. So this is Toronto. I took some locations from my area, so this is Newmarket, and it shows it on a map. And if I click here, I will see it on a big map. Now, how did we do it? So just to show you how dynamic this web part is, I'm just showing you the actual list that I'm aggregating here. So I'm going to the site content page. I have a simple list that I just created recently that is called event budget requests. And it has three columns: the title of the event, the budget required for this event, and the city where this event should take place. Okay, very simple list. Now let's get back to our page. So let me go to site pages again. And it's the event budget page that I created with our web part, with the List Aggregator web part. So let's look at the definition of this web part, how I configured it. So I'm clicking edit here, and let's edit the web part. So the web part currently has one data source, and the data source is very simple in this example because I'm connecting just to a single list. So this is not really aggregation. Aggregation is when you connect to many lists, many sites, but here I want to demonstrate just something else, which is the flexibility of adding new item level actions. So here I'm just connecting to a specific list. I could choose several lists, but I just chose this list. Now, the interesting part is in the designer. So let's go to the designer. So let's see what we see. Okay, I'm skipping the titles of this web part, and I'm going to menu bar content. So first of all, I have a menu bar which shows me the new item and the delete item, and then I have, we have this list. List is what you see here, the content, and let's see how it's configured. So you see that we have a subtitle in the list, which is no selected item. It's dynamic, and the interesting part is here in the item actions. So we have these 4 item actions. Action 1 and 2 and 4 come out of the box with the product. The one that I change is action number 3. I change its icon also. So what I did, I just added a piece of very simple code where I connect to Google Maps, and you see that I can pass as parameters any token, any column from my list. City is a column. It just, when I surround it by these brackets, I can pass it to any system that I call. I can call a web service. This time I'm calling a URL, the Google Maps URL. And there's a function that calls it and creates a nice pop-up to display in a frame, in a nice frame, the map that I get back from Google. But this just demonstrates that you can do whatever you want with these custom actions. So you can actually create something very custom that answer the exact requirements of your users. Yeah, there's a question here. I'll take all the questions later, but the answer is yes. I'll go after the session. I'll go over all the questions. Okay. Let me go back to recap and summarize this. Yeah. So what I showed you so far is just the QuizCom list aggregator. So my main point is that it can connect to many data sources. So you can run aggregations or queries across site collections. And it displays the results in a Lego style grid that you can really customize, not just the styles. I'm talking about the structure of the grid. If you want to have a menu bar and which menus, and if you want to have paging, a table, a list, grouping, or tabs, or whatever you want. Everything is configuring and customizable. Now, we also have the QuizCom remote list viewer, which is very similar, but this one, the remote list viewer, connects just to a single list. It doesn't aggregate. Now, going back to the other web parts that I mentioned, which are also part of the same data view tools, these will be quite the same. So they will also connect to the same aggregated data engine or to a list, but just have some other relevant controls. If you remember, we had here tabs control and grouping control and paging and so on. In QuizCon Calendar Plus, you will have all kind of calendar controls. So it's agenda view, monthly view, daily view, and so on. In charts, you will have various chart controls. But the nice part is these additional web parts will all connect to the same data source. So you will be able to chart aggregated data, not just a simple list. Same goes for a calendar. You'll be able to show a consolidated calendar for events coming from many lists and sites in your tenant, in your SharePoint Online tenant. Now, if you want to have all these capabilities, there's no need to buy each of these web parts alone. There's all of these are included in a master web part, which is called Data View Plus. And this is actually, this web part includes all the kind of data sources and all the kind of display controls. So you can use this one and it will cover the functionality of all these sub apps or sub web parts. It's up to you what you need. We built it this way because we want to provide specific web parts at a much lower cost, and if you want more you will pay more, but this gives me the ability as product manager to really build components or small building blocks to provide to customers that just need specific things and don't have to buy the entire suit. That's about it. Now I can take questions if you want.